Okay, folks, so this is just going to be a supplement to what we do in class and a little reference if you need it. We're going to be building this case as before. I have an Arduino Uno that I downloaded from GrabCAD, and we're going to use it instead of having to measure everything with calipers or something like that. We're going to use a well-known reference model instead and build our case completely around that model. So let's go ahead and get started. So first thing, new design and save. Call it 2025 Uno. Now I am using a like show what keys I'm holding down, so hopefully it's not distracting, but just showing you like if I'm holding down shift or control or something in the mouse, let you know what I'm doing on the keyboard. Click save and we're ready to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to grab the Arduino Uno or the Arduino here step file, add this to my current design. It'll come in here. I don't want it sitting up like this because the top is here. So I'm just going to rotate this around 90 degrees. Then I'm going to grab it and kind of put it back in the center as I can. Then I'm going to lift this up like 5 just to so it's not sitting right on the base when or right on the origin when I get there. All right, okay. Oh, I don't want to ground it. Just keep it like that. And then last thing, when I hover over here, notice this pencil. This allows me to edit it. I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do instead, let me go back here, finish in place. So what I want to do instead is break this link. So I'm not going to edit this. This is kind of the model that I'm going to use to begin with. So it just makes it easier. I can click without having to go through those pencils again. All right, last thing, I have this activated one more time, and I'm going to create a new component, and this is going to be my bottom case, or bottom case. And that's the part I'm going to build today, or we're going to build today. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I have this activated. I'm making sure this is activated anytime I'm working on the case, simply because it'll keep it in my timeline down here. I can close this up, start a sketch. I want to start on this bottom here, but this Arduino Uno is in the way, so I'm going to turn off the visibility for a second and start right there. All right, so here's my Uno. I'm going to build the case around here. This isn't exactly centered. I can move this a little bit if I want. Um, don't, I'll just leave it there for now, but just know that is possible. So what I want to do here is grab this entire picture. So I'm going to hit project, click on bodies, and then just click this, and this brings up the entire outline of the Arduino. Click OK. And now if I turn off the Arduino visibility, you can see it picked up the entire outline, plus, and we'll talk about this in a minute, all of these little pins that are sticking through. So we'll get there. And this is just like the outline of the PCB. So my base itself, the floor of my case, I'm just going to make a rectangle that's too big, 2-point rectangle, and then use some constraints to pull this in place. Collinear is my kind of what I want to do here. I click on this edge and then the back of the Arduino, this side and the side of the PCB, the front edge of the case and the front edge here. And it's just basically bringing this case bottom to be the exact size of the Arduino. I hit escape, and now I'm going to give it a little bit of space so the Arduino will fit inside. If it's exactly the same size, you might be able to wedge it down in there, but you're never going to get it back out again. So I'm going to click the offset command and then just bring this out maybe 2 mm or so. This gives it a little bit of room to kind of wiggle around in there. All right, now this case that I want to do, I don't want square edges. I want these a little bit rounded. So I'm going to round them off in here. You can also round them off when you're done, but it kind of cuts into it a little bit. So I'm just going to do it here with a fillet on my sketch. So click here and here. And I'm just going to do like a 2. So this is just going to round it a little bit. And I haven't hit anything else yet, so if I just click here and here, I can do those sides there. And in fact, you can just click the corner and it'll do the same thing. And that just rounds off all four of those corners. Lastly now, this is just the case base itself. It does not include the walls. So this is just like a little bit of space between the PCB and the edge of the wall. I still need to build the wall itself. So I'm now going to offset that 3, or we can do like 2 millimeter would probably be enough there. And then go ahead and click OK. So now that's going to be my walls of my case. All right. Finish my sketch. And now I'm going to extrude this entire thing. I might have pointed this out in class. If I try to extrude this, I would have to pick up all of these little pinholes, and I don't want to do that. So instead, I'm going to say extrude and left click on my mouse and drag a rectangle over this entire sketch, and that'll pick up everything. I'm going to extrude downwards so that way my sketch is still going to be on top. It doesn't need to be real thick. 1 millimeter is plenty. It's just saying negative because it's going down. Click OK. So that's what my Arduino would sit on. Kind of, you can see it right here. If your Arduino's not, like if you forgot to lift this Arduino up, we'll get to there in a second. It's not a big deal. Close that off again or shut that down a second. So now I'm going to go in here, this chevron, and turn on my sketch again because now I want to pick up those walls and extrude those. So extrude, I'm just going to pick up that outer wall and let's go 20 around there. Click OK. And I want join here so that way it kind of welds the base and the walls together. And we're good there. All right. So that's essentially the case. Now we just have to put a lot of finishing touches on, or a few at least. So one thing we need to do, let me turn off this Arduino and this one. I need to build these little pegs that this Arduino sits down on, and then also these standoffs, so that way the Arduino is not laying on the floor. The reason I want to do that, if you look, obviously if you've messed with the PCBs in 298 or anything like that, the bottom of a PCB usually has a bunch of headers sticking out or some mounting lugs, things like that, and it's not even. So we're going to build these little standoffs right here. So the Arduino will sit down on here, and then these little guides here will hold it in place. It's not going to snap on there, it's just going to slide down, but we're going to use that. All right. So I still have that sketch, and this is nice because now I have those right there. I'm going to create a new sketch just on the floor of this. And then these here, if I make them this exact size, the Arduino will probably sit on top of it, but I want them a little bit bigger. Now I can just do each one individually, and that would work, but another trick I can show you is this called change parameters. And I can put in a stand or diameter if you want to call it the whole thing. Click OK. And then I guess I should have changed it while I was in there. Oh, shoot, where did I put it? Model parameters, user parameters. Let's go back here. Let me stop the sketch or come out of that sketch a second and go from here. So go back here, change parameters. I'm going to add a parameter. Call it stand diameter and tell it I want it to be 5 millimeter. Okay. Okay. So now I'll do the sketch. And when I go to build each of these little standoffs, hover over there and snap in place. I can just type in 5, but I can also just hit S because that's the only one I have and say stand diam, and that will build it for me. And why I'm doing that is if I decided later I didn't like that diameter and I wanted it slightly bigger or slightly smaller, I wouldn't have to change all 4 of these in that sketch. I wouldn't even have to find that sketch. I could just go into the parameters and change exactly what I wanted, and change it to 5.5 or whatever, and it would let me do it. Another thing, I don't have to keep clicking up here. I can also just right click and say repeat center diameter. I know it's probably hard to see on the stream here, but or the recording, but you can pick these up pretty quickly. Stand diam, and there we are. Right, finish that sketch. So I'm going to extrude these up, and same thing again. I'm going to create a parameter for that because I might want them a little bit higher or a little bit lower later. So I'll call it stand height and make that 4 mm. See how that goes. Okay. Extrude these 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I type in S, and now it has two things. I'm going to say this one here and join. Right. Turn my sketch off, and we should have this. All right, so from here, we need to make these little pillars or little poles that stick up out of here to let the Arduino sit down on there here. So it's not going all the way to the top of the case, it's just sticking up enough so the Arduino has something to sit on and not rattle around. So let's do that. I could start a sketch just on this one circle here, or this one standoff, but it's a little bit easier sometimes to just build a plane. I'm going to do an offset plane. Remember, I'm going to lift this up, and this distance here, I could put in 4 mm, but if you remember, I did a stand height, so I'm just going to do the same thing here, stand height. Click OK, and then build my sketch on that plane. So that allows me now to project and pick up. I got to do entities instead of bodies. I'm going to pick up each of these faces so I can center my little pillars on there. Okay. And now I will do a circle center diameter. Now this again, I could change this. I'm going to do stand diameter and then divide that by 2. Do that to each of these, so that way if I don't like it, I can always change it. Stand diam divided by 2. So that'll come out to be 2.5. And you can see this little fx means a function. So it's just basically saying, okay, well, you were based off of something else. Center diameter, stand diam divided by 2. And then last one, right click, repeat center diameter, get it centered there. S, stand diameter, I'm hitting enter there, divided by 2. And we got that. All right. And now for that height, same thing. I'm going to make a parameter for this. So if I don't like it, I can change it later. I'll do post. Hang on, let's do plus here, sorry. Plus post height. And we'll do, let's say, 7. Okay, so now extrude. Grab this one, this one, this one, and this one. And hit P for post height. It shows up. Hit enter. All right. So this looks pretty good. Only thing I want to do is I want to put like a bevel or a chamfer on these, so the Arduino can kind of center on them and then slide down. So I'll do chamfer here. I want to do each of these. Click this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now the issue is it's 2.5, so the most I could chamfer this is half of that because it's going in one direction or the other. I'll just do 1. That'll give a little flat spot at the top, but it'll probably be fine. And there we go. All right, so let's put the Arduino back in there a second and see what's going on. So this Arduino right now, as it's sitting, I don't know exactly where it's sitting on here. I'm guessing it's pretty close. But I need to cut out for this USB port and also this power port here. If you notice, let me go back to the original. So if I take the Arduino off, I have these cutouts, so that way the Arduino fits in there. So to do that, I need to make sure the Arduino is sitting correctly on this. All right. Well, the way to do that, and you have to remember when you get done, let me click that back off. I need to basically set the Arduino down on top of those posts to make sure it's right. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Inspect, I go to section analysis. I can click on any of these faces and kind of just start cutting into this. This is non-destructive, but this is the idea here. Let me show you the front. So this Arduino PCB, as you see right now, is sitting down and it's actually into this post because we didn't really tell it where to sit. We just put it in there. So the Arduino is a little bit too low right now. So if I cut out the faces, it would not be correct when it went in. So hit cancel. So what I'm going to do instead is get the Arduino to sit down just right on there. Way to do that for now, I'm just going to click on this Arduino and then move. It gives me an arrow here. I can just drag this up. I'm going to drag this up quite a bit, and then I'm going to set it back in place correctly with what's called a joint. So I'm going to activate this entire part up top, the entire assembly, and I have up here assemble, and then I can go to joint. And what I'm going to do is kind of turn in here. I'm holding shift and the middle mouse button, and I want to use this little mounting hole. I can use any of them, but I'm just going to use this one because it's right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit and show you what I'm talking about. See, there's that little white cross there in the middle. I'm going to go right up to it. I'm not going to go above or anything like that. I'm just going to go right to this bottom one here, and it's putting this little circle. I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to say, okay, what do I want to match that to? Well, that is going to be the bottom of this part here. So let me move here. I'm going to hop in, and then just right here in this center, and we're good there. So that puts it down in place there, and good. I like where it's sitting. Set OK. So that kind of locks it right down where I want it to go. Now, excuse me. I may later change the height of this wall, but for right now, we'll just call that good. All right. So let's cut out those faces so we can put the Arduino down in here. So last thing, that joint was done in the assembly. So I need to go back here, this is important, go back to the bottom case and activate it, because when I'm working on this part, I want to make sure that timeline is correct. There's and no kind of like mixed timelines. All right, so let's do a sketch on this face here. Oh, by the way, this is saying, oh, things moved around. Are you cool with that? And if I hit, it looks like I should do revert because it's kind of highlighted, but that'll put the Arduino back to the place it was before. I don't want that. I want to capture it now. So we're going to capture that position. And I'm going to do a sketch right on here. So what I want to do is I want to use this face or these parts on the Arduino to cut the face of my case out. Well, the problem is I can't really see everything, so I'm actually going to turn the case off for a second and just look at the Arduino itself. I want to do project, that's a P. Then I'm going to select this entire face here. That'll bring up that power port there, and that's good. The problem is on this side, I can't really select this face because it's got this folded metal like case around it. So instead, I'm just going to select some edges or some flatter sides. It's not perfect, but we don't need everything to be exactly right. It's because we're going to be building some gap into it anyway. So I'm just picking some flat sides so I can figure out where that actual part is. I think we'll be good there. Click OK. Now it's saying here the object you're creating is not visible. That's because the bottom case is turned off. So I'll turn that back on. And I'll turn the Arduino off now, and you can see I have my parts there. So it picked up this little extra vertical parts. Turn that back on. And that is not part of what I want. I just want to use kind of this bottom lip here, this top lip, and these two sides. So doesn't have to be exact because I'm going to be cutting out a larger section, but this just gives me a guideline. So now I'll just go ahead and make a rectangle. Kind of go from here to here. Notice it didn't exactly get this, so I can go up here to collinear and tell it, hey, this side needs to be collinear with there. And that looks like it's good. And then this one, though, is pretty nice. It picked up everything, so I could use it. Now, like I said, I want more than this, so I'm going to offset that rectangle. And I'll notice that I'm not sure, but it looks like it went inside. I want to go outside. I want to obviously make it bigger. So I'll do like maybe a -1 or so. So 1 millimeter spacing around it. That might be too much. We could go back. Yeah, let's do like -0.5. That'll be plenty. And then same thing for this one. I'm going to offset this. This one does go out. I want maybe 0.5 on that one. One thing, this is rounded here. I think it'll be okay because this power port sits inside the case, but if not, we could also square that up. Last thing is this part here. Let me this one. I notice I cut out the top of this one. That's because when the Arduino, this USB port sticks out. So it would be hard to kind of get this to go into place, especially with these posts sticking up. So I'm going to cut the top of this off. I can do it now in this sketch, and that's probably the easiest. This one sits behind, so it's actually okay. We could also cut the top out of this one if we wanted to. Maybe we'll do it in this one and go ahead and do it. All right, so right now I got this sketch. So I want to cut the top off of here, so I'm just going to make another rectangle. Pick this corner up. It's not picking that up. Let's see, finish. Let's just finish it. We'll pop those out, and then I'll show you how to add some more cutout to it. All right, so extrude. I'm going to pick this up, this part up, get here too. So I gotta get this. There we go. And then same thing here. Pick this up, this up, and that one. So that's the two rectangles, and then I want to cut them backwards. And I could say just cut back quite a bit, but I could also say instead of distance, I can say to object, and just click on the back of the case, and it'll just cut right through. And then there's my cutouts. All right. So if I put the Arduino in, it looks great. You know, I got these nice cutouts. But like I said, you're not going to be able to get the Arduino in here because of this. It's got to slide down onto these posts, and it can't do that if it has to wedge into there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and cut this top off as well. Now, it looks like the sides, let me go back and show you the whole thing. It looks like the sides are maybe a little bit too tall anyway. Like if I hit I, that's to measure or inspect. I can click on the top of this USB case and then the top of my walls, and it's telling me it's 3 millimeters, 3.3. So the walls might be a little tall to begin with, but we can change that now if we want. We can just say extrude. I could go back here actually and change it. Let's do that. So it's 3 millimeters too tall. So if I go back to my bottom case and I just click on this face here, it'll tell me where this thing was made right here. So I'll just edit that feature. And it's saying, hey, remember I pulled this up 20. Well, it's saying it's 3.3 millimeters too high. So I could take 3.3 off of there, but I probably want a little bit of room because if I make a top for this, I want a little bit of space. So let's just come back like 2.3 millimeters, 20, 20. And then if I don't like math, I can just say minus 2.3 and it'll figure it out for me. All right, so I got this. And now I want to cut off the rest of that extra piece there. So a few ways to do that. I could just make a sketch on the top here, just like this, and then say, okay, well, tell me what I want. I want to project this edge and this edge, or actually this whole face would be good. And then same thing here, this face and this face. So that'll give me those points. And then I will create a rectangle off of those. So 2-point rectangle from here to here. Pick that up. Same thing here, 2-point rectangle from here to here. Finish sketch. And then I'll just punch those down to get them out of there. So extrude. Click that face. Click this face. Punch these down. 4 millimeter would be plenty. Click OK. So that'll cut those out. Put my Arduino back in. And I'll go back to the whole assembly so everything's nice and colored in. And that should do it. All right, looks pretty good. Not for this one because it's running too long already, but we could make a snap lid that would just go over top of this. There's a few ways to do that. I can give you some videos for that, or we can also, I can do another one if people really care, but they probably don't. There's probably like 3 people that would say, yeah, let's do that. So, but basically you just put little indents in the side here and over on this side, and then build yourself a case that wraps around and snaps down on there. Works out pretty good. So, but this will work for this. So how would I print this, or how would you send this to me? Well, the Arduino case itself, oh, not the Arduino, the case itself, get back here, should only have one body right here. And then I would just right click and then say save as mesh. You would export it as an STL file. I can do it here. If you're doing it straight to Bamboo, I would just click Bamboo Studio. Bamboo Studio would launch. And then here it is right here. Change the colors or whatever. Let's see how long it's going to take. I think it's about 30 minutes. Yeah, 29 minutes, 26 seconds. So about 30 minutes to print this entire thing. So works out pretty well. Um, One thing to note, I won't bring it up now, or I'll bring it up, but I won't show you the whole thing. We probably wouldn't print it like this in real life because these pillars here would all be these layer lines would be straight up and down, and these could snap off fairly easily. Same thing here. This side here might be easy to snap because it's just basically little layers. You would print this at a bit of an angle, possibly maybe a 45-degree angle, uh, and build some supports under it to do it. But for our purposes, if you're printing one today or need one to print for your group, this is absolutely fine. It'll work out great. All right. So that should take care of it. Thank you so much.